In this video, we are going to talk about the frequency distribution table of group data. And for our objectives, we have number 1, discuss the rules for grouping data. Number 2, construct frequency distribution of group data. So now let's discuss the rules for grouping data. So we follow some rules when we group unorganized data into a frequency table. So first, the intervals must cover the complete range of values. So we will let R be the range, and the range is the difference between the highest and the lowest values, denoted by R is equal to HV, highest value, minus LV, or the lowest value. The intervals need not begin nor end with the lowest or highest values. So for this class and for uniformity, start with the lowest score. Second, the intervals must be equal in size. So let I is equal to class size. And for the number 3, for the effective grouping of data, the number of intervals should be between 5 and 15. The number of intervals should be neither too few nor too many. The number of intervals depends on both the range and the number of items or scores to be tallied. So we will let I be the class size, and the formula in finding the class size, that is R over square root of n, where R is the range and n is the number of scores. And the square root of n is used to decide or determine the number of intervals. And lastly, every score must be tallied from highest to lowest or from lowest to highest. Thus, the intervals should not overlap. So when an interval ends with a counting number, the next interval begins with the next counting number. So let us have first example. Our task here is to make a frequency distribution table. So this table below shows the weight or mass in kilograms of 50 grade 10 students. So these are the weight or mass in kilograms of the 50 grade 10 students. So how do we make a frequency distribution table out of this data? So first, we are going to solve for the range. So using the data, we first need to determine the lowest value, and the lowest value here is 37. And the highest value, which is 59. And range is equal to highest value minus lowest value. And by substitution, our highest value is 59 minus the lowest value 37. Therefore, our range here is 22. So next, what is the number of class or interval? That is the square root of n. So our n is 50, since the number of scores is 50. So the square root of 50 is equal to 7.07. So therefore, we have about 7 classes. We have 7 classes or interval. Now solve for the class size or the I. That is the range over square root of n. Our range is 22 over the square root of 50, since our n is 50, and that is 3.11, or approximately 3 or 4. So I could be 3 or 4, but here we are going to choose I is equal to 4. We are now going to form the classes. So start with the lowest value, 37, to form the classes. So here, this is the first class, 37 to 40. Since our Class size is 4, that's 37, 38, 39, 40, so that's 4. So this is the lowest class interval. Next, 41 to 44, another 4 class size, that is 41, 42, 43, and 44. Next is 45 to 48, 49 to 52, 53 to 56. Next is 57 to 60, and our 7th class is 61 to 64. But this interval 61 to 64 is no longer needed since 59 is the highest and it is already included in the previous interval, which is 57 to 60. Therefore, we only have here 6 classes or intervals. That is from this 37 to 40 up until 57 to 60. So next, arrange the intervals in a table. We have here the intervals 37 to 40 up until 57 to 60. And we are going to tally the scores. So for 37 to 40, we have 5, so the frequency is 5. 41 to 44, 7, so that's 7. 45 to 48, we have 11, that's 11. 49 to 52, that's 17, so this is also 17. 53 to 56, that's 7, so 7. And 57 to 60, we have 3, so the frequency is 3. So the next step is to create this table, 4-column table. The first column is the interval, next is the class mark, denoted by X. Next is the frequency, denoted by F, and Fx, or the product of the frequency and X. So these are just the interval from 37 to 40 up until 57 to 60, and we know that its class size is 4. So that's 37, 38, 39, 40, 4, 41, 42, 43, 44, another 4, 57, 58, 59, 60, another 4. So next is the class mark denoted by X. So how do we get the class mark? So here, that is just upper limit plus the lower limit divided by 2, or just the midpoint of this upper limit 60 and lower limit 57. So that is 60 plus 57 divided by 2, that is 58.5. Likewise, in this next column, that is 56 plus 53 divided by 2, that's 54.5. So 52 plus 49 divided by 2, that's 50.5. 45 plus 48 divided by 2, that's 46.5. 44 plus 41 divided by 2, that's 42.5. 40 plus 37 divided by 2, that's 38.5. So that's how do we get the class mark or the X. So the frequency are just the same with the previous table. And this product of the frequency and the class mark X. So that is 58.5 times 3, that's 175.5. 54.5 times 7, that's 381.5. So 50.5 times 17, that's 858.5. 46.5 times 11, that's 511.5. 42.5 times 7, that's 297.5. And 38.5 times 5, that's 192.5. So get the sum of the product of the frequency and the class mark. So that's summation of Fx is equal to 2,470. It's just the total or the sum of this Fx here. So now let's discuss mean of group data. So for our objectives, number 1, discuss the technique in finding the mean of group data, and number 2, determine the mean of group data. So the mean. The technique in finding the mean of group data is similar to that of the ungrouped data using the frequency distribution. So consider the following steps. Number 1, compute the class mark or the midpoint of each interval by finding the mean of the lower and upper boundary points of the interval. Next, compute the product of x sub I and its corresponding frequency f sub I, and sum the product of f sub I x sub I. And finally, the mean denoted by this bar x of a group data is given by this formula. Bar x is equal to the summation of fx all over n, where n here is the total frequency. So now let's discuss mode of group data. So in this lesson, we are going to discuss how to determine the mode of group data and determine the mode of the group data. So what is mode? The mode of a group data is the class mark with the largest frequency. So it is a class mark with the largest frequency. There is more than one mode if two or more class marks have the largest frequency. So there can be more than one mode. So the group data has no mode if the frequencies of the class interval are the same. So just like the mode for ungrouped data, group data can have more than one mode, or it is possible that it has no mode. So let us have this example 2. Find the mean and the mode. So using this table, we have here the interval, the class mark, the frequency, where n is equal to 50, or the total frequency is equal to 50, and the product of the frequency and the class mark denoted by fx, and the summation of this fx here is equal to 2417. So the total of the product of the frequency times the class mark is equal to 2417, and n, or the total frequency, is equal to 50. So now let's find the mean. To find the mean, using this formula, bar x is equal to the summation of fx all over n. So by substitution, the summation of fx is 2417 divided by the total frequency n, that is 50. So 2417 divided by 50, that's 48.34. So the mean is 48.34. So how about the mode? To find the mode is the class mark of the interval with the highest frequency. So in the table, the mode there is 50.5, since it has the highest frequency among all the class mark. And in this lesson, you are going to answer activity 6b.6. What is your place temperature?